Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, hi, I'm Megan, and today's video is going to be the mid-year book freakout tag. For the sake of this video, we're going to ignore the fact that part of my forehead is out of frame for the entire video, and also that this is being posted in August, because that's definitely not mid-year. So let's get into it. So the first question of the mid-year book freakout tag is, what is the best book I've read this year so far? I've read some really amazing books this past year. I'm gonna have to go with Loveless by Alice Oseman. For those of you who don't know what Loveless is about, it is about a girl named Georgia. She's off to her first year at university and she's feeling left out in that she hasn't experienced a lot of the firsts that her friends has, like first kiss, first boyfriend, girlfriend, partner. So she's trying to catch up, so to say, with her first year at college with the help of her roommate and also her two best friends from high school who are going to the same university as her. And it's just her journey of discovering who she is, what her sexuality is. The cast of characters is amazing. I always love the group of characters that Alice Oseman writes. Highly recommend. I read it basically in a day while I was in Georgia. Just ironically that the character's name was Georgia, and I read it when I was in Georgia, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next question is, what is the best sequel I've read so far this year? When I first saw this question, I wasn't sure how I was going to answer it because I don't read a lot of series. I feel like that's a huge time commitment, and because I myself has been in university and finishing up my degree, I like standalones because I think they take up less of my time. So I was like looking at my Goodreads books and I was like, have I read any sequels this year? But I have. Ironically, it is another Alice Oseman book. I've been reading Heartstopper. So I've read volumes 2, 3, and 4 within this past year. I read volume 1 back in December. If I'm being honest, I can't really distinguish the plot points between volumes 2, 3, and 4 because I read them one after another, so I'm just gonna say all of those together were the best sequels I've read so far this year. I love Nick and Charlie. I love the cast of characters that Alice Oseman writes. I have watched the Netflix show, which I thought it was a great adaptation of the book. Thank God. We need better adaptations. Book to movies, book to TV shows. Yeah, I love the cast of characters. I love the character arcs for both Nick and Charlie. Just everyone. I love it all. And the next question in the tag is a new release that I haven't read yet, but I would like to get to soon. Set on You by Amy Lee. Full disclosure, the only reason I want to read this book is because I saw a TikTok video about it and it said that the main love interest is supposed to look like Chris Evans. But from what I heard online, it is about a body positive fitness influencer, and it's an enemies to lovers story with the Chris Evans-esque character at the gym, because Chris Evans, I'm gonna call him fake Chris Evans, but fake Chris Evans keeps stealing our main character's favorite squat rack, and that's how they meet and interact and stuff. The next question in the mid-year book freakout tag is the most anticipated release I have for the rest of the year. I don't really keep up with book releases. I just kind of go into Barnes & Noble and pick up what I think is interesting. I will follow my favorite authors in things that they are releasing. I've already read my most anticipated releases of this year. I read I Kissed Sarah Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. I read Loveless by Alice Oseman, which I already talked about, you know I love it. I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I have not read Something Wilder by Christina Lauren, but that has already been released this year, so I don't think that applies to this question. I don't really have any authors that I know of who are releasing books later this year. They all released them, I think in May actually. Voiceover Megan here again, and I'm so disappointed in myself for not remembering that the blue edition of Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston releases in October. She has been pre-ordered, but I'm considering this a new release because it comes with a new 16-page chapter of Henry and Alex 6 years after their original story ends, and they're planning their wedding, so I'm considering that a new release. The next question is the biggest disappointment of this year so far. I would have to say that would be The Music Shop by Rachel Joyce. The concept of the book really intrigued me. The book is about a record store owner in like the 80s when they were just starting to switch over from vinyl to CDs, and how he's trying to keep vinyl within the world because he refuses to sell CDs or even cassette tapes in his store. And he thinks that vinyl is the purest form of music, and he has a special ability of finding people the right piece of music that they need just by looking at them. I was really excited to read this because it's all about music, and me who studied music in college, I was like, yes, we're gonna talk about music, how it's impacted people's lives. And it's just, to say it was disappointing is an understatement. There's also a romance subplot in this, by the way, about this mysterious woman who faints when she's at the door of his shop. Not to rag on it, because I did enjoy parts of it. Actually, the only parts I really enjoyed were the flashbacks. His childhood, the main character's name is Frank, by the way, sorry. The flashbacks to Frank's childhood with his mother where he gets his appreciation for music from his mother. Those were the best parts in my opinion, because she really goes into like, oh, this part right here in this music, it's about sorrow, it's about agony, you know, stuff like that. But the rest of it, I feel like the cast of characters were not fully fleshed out, and I think the love interest, whose name I'm forgetting, which, you know, speaks to how little I enjoyed the book, I feel like she just became this manic pixie dream girl of a character whose entire story kind of revolved around Frank, and she had no character arc separate from him, really. So it was just overall really disappointing. I'm sad that I wasted my time trying to finish this book. Well, I did finish it, not trying to. I did finish it, but I wish I had spent time reading a different book that I would have enjoyed more. The next question in the mid-year book freakout tag is the biggest surprise so far, and for me that would have to be Prince Charming. It's also known as Royals, depending on what country you're in, I think, by Rachel Hawkins. This was a big surprise to me because I had read this after reading Loveless by Alice Oseman and I Kiss Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston, two books that I gave 5 out of 5 stars, and I read them back to back. So to say that I was in a good reading mood, that I wanted to keep that pace going, well, I wanted to keep my reading pace going with reading things that I enjoyed. I had never read Rachel Hawkins before. I was scared I was going to be disappointed. The main plot, which is about this girl named Daisy, her sister Eleanor is engaged to the Scottish prince, and it's about Daisy trying to navigate the world as the family of a new royal, essentially. She has a romance with some other royal. I don't remember titles. It's a lot to remember titles, okay? But I love the concept of it because I love reading about monarchies, princes, princesses, and all that. But I don't know, I was scared to pick it up. But I'm so glad I did, because her writing was so funny and Daisy just spoke to me as a character. She's very sarcastic, a lot of witty one-liners, and that's like my brand of humor. So I was like, oh, this is a character I can relate to. Needless to say, I finished this book within a day too. My only qualm with this book is that I think it could have been 100 pages longer. I think it wrapped up too quickly with a nice little bow. I wanted more conflict. I wanted a little bit more angst, especially with like resolving things with on the end of like her sister being Scottish royalty or about to be Scottish royalty, and also with a romance plotline too. I feel like that ended a little too nicely, but overall I really enjoyed it. And the next question is my favorite new author, either if it's a debut author or an author new to me. I really want to say Rachel Hawkins, who, as we just talked about, wrote Prince Charming, because I loved her writing. If you can make me laugh while I'm reading a book, like laugh out loud, then top-notch author. All my favorite authors can do that. But I think for this question, I'm gonna answer with Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have been late to keeping up with the bookish trends on the internet. I read what I want to read and no one else can tell me differently, really. So it was only this year that I had read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I am currently reading Daisy Jones and the Six, and I love her writing style. It's very different, so I get that not everyone will mesh with her writing style, but me personally, I really do, and I think it's because the way that Taylor Jenkins Reid writes, it's very easy for my brain to process it and make like movies out of it in my head, so to say, because when I read a book, I have like a full-on movie going up here. I don't see just like words on a page or like still pictures in my head. It's like there are people acting it out in my brain, if that makes sense. I know not everyone has that, but I do, and I think it's really cool because like it just makes the world of the book come alive so much more for me. As I'm reading Daisy Jones and the Six, I am picturing it like how it would be shot as a movie, which I know it is, so I'm very excited. I'm really vibing with her writing style. The next question is my newest fictional crush, and I have to say, I'm not one who usually gets fictional crushes on book characters. Movie characters, totally separate thing. I have a lot of movie character crushes. Hi, Steve Rogers. Book character crushes, I really don't. And I think part of that is because if I'm reading a romance book, I want the main love interest to be with the main character. I don't want the main love interest for myself. But if I had to choose, I think I would choose Charlie from Book Lovers by Emily Henry, because he has that sarcastic, witty back and forth between her that I really love. Like it gets me good. The next question in the tag is my newest favorite character. That, again, that's so hard to choose. I'm gonna cheat a little bit and say the entire cast of characters in I Kiss Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. I just love them all so much, and I love their dynamics together. I want to be part of that friend group. I think we'd have a lot of fun. Maybe not Shara, because she's an unlikable main character, but like in the best way, and I know that's what Casey McQuiston was going for when she wrote the book, so like props to you, Casey McQuiston. But sometimes I just want to slap her. Shara Wheeler, not Casey McQuiston. I want to slap Shara Wheeler sometimes. Chloe, I absolutely loved Rory, and I loved Smith. They have my little heart, okay? The next question is a book that made me cry. This honor goes to Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. Second Chance Summer is about this family's last summer at their vacation home because, mild spoilers, the dad is very sick, so this is their last chance to spend a summer together. So it has heavy themes of grief, and by the end of the book I had to keep putting it down because the tears were welling up in my eyes, and I was like, we gotta take a moment. So I didn't actually cry, but that's just because I stopped myself. If I did not stop myself from reading, there would have been like tears, full on sobbing. The next question is a book that made me happy. There are quite a few books that made me happy, and I feel like I've talked a lot about them already in this video, but here we go. I Kiss Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston, Loveless by Alice Oseman, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Sorry, I don't know why like my voice went there. And Prince Charming by Rachel Hawkins. All of these books made me laugh out loud, and that's all I can ask for a book to make me happy, so job well done. The second to last question is the most beautiful book I've bought this year. Off the top of my head, I have no idea what books I've bought this year, just because as soon as I buy a book, it goes onto my shelf, so it doesn't like stick out in my brain. But I recently went to an antique store while I was down in Georgia and picked up a vintage copy of The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, so I'm going to say that, and I'll put a picture right here. And the final question of the mid-year book freakout tag is, what books do you have to read by the end of this year? And man, let me tell you, there's a lot. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say the entire Summer I Turned Pretty series, because that was recently turned into an Amazon Prime TV show, and I want to read the books before I watch that. And then to go along the same veins of like reading the book before watching the series, I want to read Shadow and Bone before I watch that. Yes, I know it's been out for like forever. Okay, maybe not forever, but like at least a year, I want to say. And I still haven't read that, so I want to read that. And then my best friend just gifted me A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. because that is my best friend's favorite book, and I promised her I would read that by the end of this year. And so 2 series, 1 standalone so far. There's probably more. I'm very much a mood reader, so my TBR lists are very fluid. I'm like, oh, I think I feel like reading this right now. I'll probably read more fantasy-esque books, more magical books in the fall, because right now I just want something light and fun because it's summer and beach reads and stuff. So that is it for my video. I hope you enjoyed my mid-year book freakout tag and all of my rambling about the books that I've read or want to read by the end of this year, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!